If there was a natural disaster today and you had to evacuate, would you be prepared to take your pet with you and have everything you need? Well, on the show today, I have a special guest. Her name is Michelle Danielson, and she's the co-founder of a company that makes emergency evacuation kits for pets. Well, hi, Michelle. Welcome to People with Passion for Pets.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You are the co-founder of a company that makes evacuation packs for pets, and I'm excited to hear a little bit more about it. I know my audience is excited to hear more too. So just tell us a little bit about how you get started and what's in the pack.
I've worked with the Colorado Dalmatian Rescue for many years, and we've always, pulled a lot of dogs out of Texas and brought them up, and they'll come through Colorado, and I usually meet somebody in Utah and pick them up, and I'll foster or train or whatever. And when Hurricane Harvey hit in 2017, we had 3 dogs that had been pulled from a high kill shelter, and they're wannabe Dalmatians. They're not always purebreds. And they were sitting down there in Houston in a kennel waiting to be transported up. And Hurricane Harvey hit, and the lady that was boarding the dogs, she was sending out pictures, and the dogs were standing in their kennels in chest deep water. And she's like, I need help. Can somebody come help us? And so our coordinator down in Waco, Tina, borrowed a big truck. The guy had this huge truck that was off the ground, and they tried to get in, and it was so much flooding, they couldn't get in. And so the next day boats showed up, but we'll only take the people and not the dogs. And Lindy's like, well, I'm not leaving without the dogs. That's not happening. She'd already gotten them out of the water, put them in crates, and they were up on her deck. And of course, we're getting all these pictures, and it's just like, she's like, God, somebody's got to come help. So it was finally day 3, and the boats showed up, and they took her and the dogs, and got them out. And then she's texting us saying, hey, I need food. I need kennels. I need bowls. She had a whole list of things that she needed now, and she's in this temporary shelter. And so being in Nevada, I'm 2,000 miles away, but I'm thinking that's something I could do, is I can bring them supplies, So I rallied, because I do pet therapy up here, and I rallied all my therapy dog friends. I rallied the SPCA, all of my neighbors on the neighborhood website, and said, hey, this is what I need. And I sent out the list, and God, within 2 days, I had to go rent a U-Haul. I had so much stuff to take down there. So I had my truck and a U-Haul trailer. I headed to Texas, me and another lady I had just met. She's like, I'll go with you. And I'm like, great. So we headed to Texas, and we delivered the supplies, and we brought back 4 big dogs with us. And that was, when I got home, I'm walking through Willow Springs, which is a treatment facility for kids that I do pet therapy in. And the girl who does it with me, Claudia, and I were walking down the hallways, and I was telling her about my story and how sad it was to see all these animals that have been left behind, and they were out there trying to rescue them. And we thought, well, there's got to be something we can do, And so we started doing some research, and we found out that 91% of people are not prepared to evacuate with their animals. And we thought, well, why not have a go bag for your pet like you would for yourself? So that started another research, and it's like, what's out there already? And we found a couple that were on the market. There was one in a bucket, there was one in a briefcase, and there was one in a backpack, but it didn't have any pet products in it other than food. It had the 5-year shelf life food, but it was only one bag. And it's like, well, my dog's 70 pounds. He's not going to survive on one bag of dog food. So we researched, we talked to vets, we talked to a lot of people that have been evacuated and rescued, and we talked to first responders. And so we came up with our PetEvacPak. We launched it in 2018. So, but it's been this whole learning curve and this whole experience. And of course, we do dog and cat packs, and then different sizes. So if you have a large dog, this is a 70-pound dog, you're going to get 3 bags of food, and you're going to get 12 bags of water. It's 5-year shelf life that will sustain your pet for at least 72 hours. And that's what the minimum is that FEMA and Red Cross recommend. So that's kind of how it was developed.
That is awesome. What a story. Have you always been a part of pet rescues, or it sounds like you've been involved in kind of rescue organizations for a while?
Yeah, I've always had rescue dogs. That started with my mom. She would bring home little baby birds that had fallen out of the nest. So we've always been into rescuing animals. So Yeah.
That's
And
great.
that's kind of our next step is how do we get this further out? And we want to get to where we're doing small animals and birds and some of those.
Oh, how fun. That
Yeah,
would be
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Very interesting. So let's talk about your product in specific a little bit. I see you've got some things around you. So for one thing, I always love that it does come in a great carry, like almost like a backpack situation. So it's all compact, it's all
Right.
ready.
That's one of the things that you have to look at when you're evacuating, right? Is like, if I only have one road in and out, I might have to hike out on foot, right? And so I want to have my hands free. So backpack is a great option for that. So even if you're hiking or camping or anything else, having a backpack is perfect. If you have multiple animals, maybe you need a suitcase or a roller bag, to where you've got your animals in one hand and your roller bag in the other hand, where you can roll it out. So that's the first thing you really need to prepare and look at. How am I going to evacuate? Where am I going to go? What does my route look like? Where am I going to head? So.
And you talked about, one of the things that is recommended is that 72-hour window where you should have enough food and water for yourself and your pet, obviously.
Right.
So one of the things that I noticed in your backpack is that it does have the individual sealed packages. And of course, some people may say, well, I could just throw some kibble into a Ziploc bag. And certainly that's something that's available. But
if you have time.
I love the idea of just having these individual packs as well, because it certainly is going to make things a lot easier. And if you think about emergency situations, a lot of times there's a lot of extreme weather involved, right? So you want to be sure that it's all in a way that it's also not going to spoil.
Right. If you have time, that's the perfect thing, is to put your dog's food in there. I mean, that's or your cat's food, because you don't want to make them sick if you have to bug out. But our pack is designed so that if somebody knocks at your door and says, get out now, you can grab that bag and you can grab your pet and get out and know that you have 72 hours of supply for your pet. And we use the Mayday dog food and the Mayday water. I don't have any dog food here, but I do have the water. And this is a foil sealed pouch for the water. You could use bottled water, but if you ever noticed on the bottles, there's an expiration date. That's because the plastic will start to go bad. And it's usually a 1-year shelf life from date of manufacturing. This has a 5-year shelf life. So you can just put it in the bag and know you only have to rotate it every 5 years. So, and we put 12 of these in every pack. So, and the general rule of thumb for your pet is a healthy pet would need 1/2 to 1 ounce of water per pound of body weight per day. So these are 4.225 ounce bags. So this will handle really a 65, 70 pound dog. Okay.
Perfect.
You put 12 in every pack. So
okay.
Plenty of water. That's the first thing that you have to realize, is that your pet's body can shut down and within 72 hours if they don't have water. They can usually go for a week or two without food, but they can't go without water. So that's the first thing you should put in your evacuation kit.
That's perfect. And yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit about it. Obviously, there are some things that people can do to just kind of get prepared and put together their own little evacuation kit. Obviously, it would mean, and I know yours comes with, bowls that you can fold, because again,
Right.
it needs to be also compact. If you think about
Absolutely.
it, like you mentioned earlier, yes, I can pack all this stuff like when I go traveling with our pets, and we travel a lot, but there's a ton of stuff, between them and me. But
Right.
when you're leaving and you only can grab a couple of things, there are some things that you should be thinking about. What are some of the tips for people to think about?
So yeah, and if you go to our website on the last blog, it's like we show you how to build your own pack. There's everything there listed out that we have, but you want to make sure you have their food and water. You want to make sure they have their medications for sure. And that's something we can't pack for you, but we do provide a waterproof pouch so you can put their documentation and medications in it.
Oh, nice.
Make sure you have their shot records, because if you do have to board them, you'll need their shot records, right? If you're bugging out. Make sure they have bowls, one for food, one for water. We love those collapsible bowls. They're great for storing, getting in and out. I always keep them in my car anyway. So whenever I go anywhere, I have bowls and water for my dog, right? We also recommend a slip lead. A slip lead is a great tool to use if you have to get out quick. somebody knocks at your door and because you're going to panic, you're going to go, oh my God, what do I need? Right. So if you have a slip lead there, you can grab your pet, because they're going to freak out too. Believe me, some of them are going to hide, and you got to find your pet and you got to just slip that and get them out. So that's what we recommend. A lot of times you don't have a collar or leash, or you might not even have time to put a harness or a collar or leash on. So the slip lead is quick and it's easy. We also have, you want to make sure you have your waste disposal stuff. Like for cats, you're going to have a disposable litter box, litter, scoop, and then the poo bags, right, for your dogs and stuff, because you never know. So you're going to need it. We also supply Mylar blankets. So a Mylar blanket, it's great to hold in about 90% of your pet's body heat. If they get wet or cold, you can wrap it around them and you can keep that body heat in so they don't go into shock. Have a great first aid kit. And our little first aid kit is awesome because it's compact. You can take it if you're hiking, if you're, everybody should have a first aid kit for your pet, no matter what. And again, make sure it's got first aid products in it for pets. We put in the PetVet, which is a water-based gel. Its main ingredient is silver, and it handles first and second degree burns, cuts, abrasions, all of those kind of things. We put in Claudit. We use vet tape, the Pet Flex. So it's terrible. So you don't need scissors for it. But again, we put in gauze pads and tweezers. And so everything is in that little kit, and it's great. You can just clip it on your belt if you're out hiking or something even. So make sure you have a great first aid kit. Make sure that you have a pet ID card, because if you do have to take them to a shelter, there's a little ID card that we put in ours, and they can put it right on the kennel for them. What else? We add Jackson Kelly Palm body wipes so that you can wipe your pet's paws off if they get muddy, or if you have to go through ash, you can clean the paws off. Make sure that they have that. We also recommend a night light, some kind of a night light. We put in a clip-on LED night light that, because you never know if you have to evacuate at night, right? So those are some of the main things that we recommend, obviously. And then again, add 5 days worth of their medications, because you just don't know when you're going to be able to get additional medication if there's an emergency, and their shot records. So.
Yeah. The only thing, I guess, from a behaviorist standpoint, we're dog trainers and behaviorists. And one of the things that I talk about, having your own emergency kit when you go on hikes is a muzzle. And that is because in stressful situations, animals might bite, and even sometimes the owner. But if you think about it, in an emergency situation, you may be in a shelter with a lot of other people. And in order to be able that your pet is acceptable and does not lash out of fear, it's always good to maybe have a soft muzzle at least. And
we do this packing slip, and down here, these are optional items, and the muzzle is listed on here. A lot of people like it, a lot of people don't. So it's one of those things that it's an option for you that definitely, I have one actually in my bag. So
yeah, and I think it's so important, even if your dog is never muzzled, you need to be sure to train your dog, right? And those are some of the things. I also carry an emergency, it's called a pack-a-paw harness. So for a larger dog, if your dog gets injured on the trail, and you wouldn't be able to carry that dog out, that's a great thing. But one of the things that we like to talk about is, practice emergency situations, just like you should practice them with your children. You should practice them with your pets. And, if you think about it, if you have a cat, maybe your cat is never in that carry bag or the crate that you have, but in an emergency situation, that's going to be very, very important. And so it's not a bad idea, because you're just adding to the stress if all of those things are completely new to the pet, right? And so I always say, make sure that your dog knows to wear a muzzle, even if you normally don't need it. At least he should be, comfortable wearing one. And same with the cat, be sure that it's comfortable in a carrier, or in a harness, or they actually make muzzles for cats as well. So
those are good points. And then also make sure your pet is used to being in the car. You take them for short rides so they get used to all of that. Yeah, we always recommend, especially crate training. A lot of people like it, some people don't, but it's like, if you have to go to a shelter, I've been to a lot of Red Cross shelters, when you show up at a Red Cross shelter with your pet, more than likely you're not going to get in, because the Red Cross is there for the people. They're not there for your pets, and they're not going to have any supplies for your pets. So what they're going to do is they're going to send you to a temporary shelter that's been set up for your pet. So you are going to get separated from your animals. You don't know, and they are going to have to be kenneled, either crated or kenneled, depending upon the situation. So it's really important to make sure your pet is comfortable in a crate.
We don't really want them to associate the crate with a bad thing, right? So it's like you were mentioning, it's a good thing to already have practiced this and have the dog feel that the crate is not something terrible or scary. And then at least that takes away from the stress. Yeah.
For sure.
Excellent.
I agree.
Now, Michelle, earlier you mentioned your blog, and we'll be sure to share some links to your website and your blog, because that's a great resource in the description below the video. But mention for the listeners and the viewers, where can they find your website and where can they connect with you?
Sure. We're at www.PetEvacPak. It's PetEvacPak.com. And we're, like I said, we're on Chewy's, we're on Amazon, and our packs are available, all over the place. So, make sure you check them out. And like I said, our blog is, we did a blog this last month on how to build your own kit if you want to. We have a custom kit page, which is super cool. We just launched it a few months ago, and you can actually go on. If you have multiple pets, say you've got a couple cats and 3 dogs or whatever, and so one pack isn't going to do it, and you need a roller bag, or you have a suitcase and you want to add all of these products to it, you can order whatever you want individually, but it's customized for your pets, and we'll walk you through it. We'll tell you how much food you need for each pet and how much water you need for each pet, and so how many bowls you might need per pet. So all of those kind of things, and so you don't forget what you might need, and you might already have bowls, so you don't need those, so you can skip it and go to the next section. So again, you can customize it.
And I think that is so wonderful, because a lot of times when you're looking at purchasing something like this, then you get a lot of items that you already have, right? And you go, okay, now I got some more bowls. But that's what I love about this, because it is truly meant to be customized. And like you're saying, there's all kinds of situations where somebody might have 2 cats and 3 dogs or whatever. So you can just put it all together and then find a suitable carry item, whether or not it's, like you said, a roller bag, a suitcase, or I just love your backpack. So that's super cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, wonderful. And again, your website is a great resource. You have a blog where you always come up with new topics. I highly recommend for anybody out there, just check out the blog, check out the website, and at least make sure that you have some form of bag prepared.
And make sure it's a dedicated bag, so you're not getting into it all the time. But if you do happen to, you take the first aid kit out or you take something out, you can reorder just to replace that if you need to. So.
And I think one of the things to remind people again, which we talked to a pet nutritionist, and a lot of people aren't aware that kibble does not have a long shelf life. Once you open a bag of dog food and it's exposed to air, it actually starts to go rancid, because there are oils that are sprayed on top of kibble that quickly become rancid. So if you are putting in small bags of Ziploc bags of your dog's dog food, remember that that's only good for about 3 weeks. So you should not kibble that has been taken out of a sealed dog food container should actually be no longer stored than 3 weeks. So
that's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, make sure you're rotating. If you're putting your own food and water, make sure you're rotating it, for sure. And like I said, I think the best thing to do is if you do use the 5-year shelf life food and water, add your pet's own food on top of it, just in case. You know what I mean? If you have time, that's the best thing, is to take your pet's food, right? Sure. But if you don't have time, that you're prepared.
Great. Okay? Anything else you would want our listeners to know about emergencies, or little tips on what to do?
Yeah, like I said, make a plan, make a route, practice it, and have a go bag ready. Those are my tips. I've actually had to evacuate on vacation before. So when I was on vacation, when I went to Mexico with my dog, it was funny because it was right after we launched PetEvacPak, and I had taken my dog's pack down there, And I'd taken my friend, I brought her a two dog pack, and that was in my suitcase. And we flew down and we drove over the border into Mexico, right after Hurricane Rosa. And we got out to their house on the beach, and then they opened up the gates on the Colorado River, and the estuary flooded, and we were stranded out there on this island. We couldn't get out, so they had to have the military come in and rescue us, right? And it's only me. Only I could get evacuated on vacation, right? And I was sure glad I had my stuff with me.
But then at least they were able to take your dogs. That's
yes, and that was why we had to wait. We had to wait for the military, because there were some boats that were coming, but you had to swim out to the boats, and it's like we had 4 big dogs. It's like there was no way, we were going to be able to do that. So yeah. Yeah, so our only option was to wait for the military to come down the beach on their big Hummers and take us out. So
wow,
yeah.
What a story.
It was quite the experience. Yeah. And of course, then they put us on these buses, and the buses had to drive us through the floodwater. And it's like they had ambulances on both ends in case we got washed off the road. And we're just like,
that sounds like quite the experience.
It was quite the experience. But yeah. So like I say, even on vacation, you never know.
Wow. Well, I am so glad that you were on the show, and there's so much great information that came through in this conversation. And again, for everybody listening, go check out the PetEvacPak. We'll link the description below as well, so that people can find it very easily. And check it out, read the blog, and get prepared, because you just never know when something's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having us.
Thanks so much for joining us on People with Passion for Pets. If you enjoyed this interview, then you might also like a lot of our other interviews. So check out my playlist over here for the 2nd season of People with Passion for Pets. And until next time, keep your paws on the road.